Hello.
Oh, we don't have any video here.
Oh, I turned off the thing. Just click there. I
Okay.
just turned off the video. Did you just try to touchscreen a
I totally did.
It looked like you were going to.
They wouldn't have known if you didn't say anything.
It really looked like you were going to do that.
I was definitely going to.
I was about to say, this is a pretty sick neck.
Well, we're already live, so people know what I tried to do there.
Sweet.
Yeah, welcome back to Super Gamer. I'm with Justin Durkin, the
Hi.
Retro Detective.
Yeah.
Or a Retro Detective?
I am a retro detective.
Are you the or a?
The.
Okay, the Retro Detective, who I know Jeremy, our behind-the-scenes guy here, has already bought from.
Yeah.
And I will almost certainly be buying from because there are Super Nintendo games there, and I love them. But it's not just Super Nintendo, obviously. It's a variety of
Yeah, it's a
retro.
variety of all games. It's mostly retro, like anything from PlayStation 1 to 3, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, all the way up to... I even have a Switch game over there.
All right, well, that was my first question is, like, what's the cutoff for retro?
That's tough, really. I'd say probably in the... Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64. Yeah, I'd call GameCube retro too. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly in the retro
Or
gaming
anything
area
that's
there.
not like past generation or two.
Right.
Yeah.
But you still carry some of the newer stuff just because.
Yeah,
why not?
yeah. Well, I'm kind of everything video games, consoles too. So.
Right. So do you like have a store in Winnipeg or?
No, I don't. I'm just a guy that kind of took this hobby into a little bit more. I like to set up at shows and sell on Kijiji and Facebook groups and stuff like that. So kind of just run it out of my basement.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
How big is your collection?
I believe I broke 2,000 games. So just over 2,000 games, something like that.
So is that just like in a case in your basement, or?
My personal collection is a little smaller than that. I kind
Right,
of keep like
but
a smaller one. But
okay, fair enough.
I thought you meant like all the stuff that I have in stock.
I did, yeah.
I mean, that is kind of my collection. I just kind of rotate games by getting people the stuff they want and then getting new ones. So my collection is kind of available to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you come to events like these, like, what do you find the most popular console, I guess?
I feel that fluctuates from show to show. Sometimes it's Super Nintendo, sometimes it's N64. I think Winnipeg is really fond of N64, I find. At this show, it's actually Game Boy Advance. I've sold the most Game Boy Advance games today.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That feels like a forgotten system to me, but...
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not basing that on anything. It just...
Yeah,
I had
no,
one myself and, like, kind of don't think about it that much.
It came out in an era that I didn't really play a lot of video games. Like, I kind of skipped past that, I guess. I didn't play a lot of games when those were coming out. So yeah, it's kind of foreign to me too. But there's a lot of really neat RPG and platformers on it and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
especially
I think
RPG. I think on the handheld, because I really don't play a lot of handheld. I feel like there's tons of good RPGs there.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like between Game Boy Advance and the DS, there's just like a bajillion RPG games, and there's so many good ones. So
we were just talking when I went to check out your booth there. I'm a Super Nintendo guy. You're a Nintendo guy,
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell us how you got into gaming?
Well, I was a kid. The Nintendo came out when I was 6 years old, and I didn't get it right away. I probably got it when I was about 8. And at that point in your life, like you get introduced to video games, especially something that's that fresh and new. I was playing games all the time. Like any chance I got would be playing my Nintendo.
Right.
Let's go rent a game, Mom. I need to play like whatever.
Yeah. Back when we did rent games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when it all started.
Yeah. I guess this was a time, like, did your parents ever say, like, that's too many video games?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of an angry video game nerd, I guess, kind of like that. I used to throw my controller against the wall.
Yeah.
I actually even used to bite my controller because there's games that are incredibly frustrating. I don't know, you played NES games recently.
Certainly.
They're hard. They're
yeah.
really hard, especially compared to new generation games.
Yeah.
And, so I used to lose my mind, I guess, when I was a kid and, lash out at the controller. And I think that cut me off. Like, if my mom caught wind of that, it'd be like, that's enough.
Right.
It's break time.
It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you get people coming by, like, do they typically want to, like, talk old video games, or do they know what they want when they come by, or they're like, oh, sweet, I'm just gonna browse?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I get a lot of a lot of cool conversations that come out of just doing what I do. That's the thing that brings the most enjoyment for me out of it, is the kind of the relationships that I build with people. Even just on the spot like that. But there is definitely a lot of browsing. They kind of just check things out and move along and then come back, do a rotation of the vendors on.
Do you get a lot of like in-person interaction, like relationship building, or is it like how much of an online presence do you need to have to be into this kind of hobby?
I don't think you really need to have a big online presence. Like for me myself?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think just from this kind of thing, I've made a lot of connections with people, and people come back to me later on. I give them kind of a business card so they can contact me later. And yeah, I get people coming back regularly. So.
What's the holy grail for for you to find an old retro game? You'd be like, oh, I need to have this.
Oh, I don't know.
Or and I'll even two parts. Like, what's one that you would love to own, and what's one that you'd be like, oh, this is going to sell for so much money?
Well, there's a lot of like really expensive games. Recently, I sold a copy of Zombie Nation, which is a NES game.
Okay.
That game goes for over $400.
Wow.
For just a cartridge, not even a boxed game.
Wow.
So there's a lot of those kind of things. I don't think there's anything really specific. There's a lot of really like key Super Nintendo games that sell really well, and they're like $50 to $100 range. So, it's nice to find those for a decent price and flip them for a bit of profit. But
so obviously, I don't want to give away your game plan. But how do you go about even finding something that's so rare and expensive?
At this point, I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years. I have a lot of people coming up to me selling me their collections.
Okay.
For me, I like to buy a big collection, or it doesn't have to be huge, but a lot of games all at once, and then I kind of just sell it piece by piece.
Okay.
So that's kind of the way that I
find you have like 7 versions of bass fishing. And
yeah, exactly. I get a lot of those kind of filler games.
Right.
But you get people that collect entire consoles, and they want those too. So I think everything sells eventually.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, if people are at FanQuest, you can come check out Retro Detective, check out their collection, buy some stuff. If they're not at FanQuest, how can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook. I'm Retro Detective Winnipeg. That's WPG at the end. And you can also email me, retrodetectivewpg@gmail.com.
Justin, thank you so much.
Thank you.